The last light of humanity's colony on Artemis V flickered across the barren surface as Captain Riven Kayla stood on the observation deck, staring into the endless void. The planet's craters reflected the red glow of distant warships creeping closer each hour. The colony had survived 7 long months of relentless assaults from the Zanari Armada, an alien species whose technology made humanity's fleets seem like toy ships. Billions had perished, countless cities turned to ash, and yet the stubborn spark of life remained here, clinging to survival like a candle against a storm. Beside Riven, Lieutenant Soria Lin glanced at the tactical display, her eyes scanning every red blip that signified incoming Zanari cruisers. She was young, brilliant with navigation and evasive maneuvers, yet haunted by the losses she had witnessed. "Captain," she said softly, "if the Zanari reach our orbital station in 12 days, the evacuation plan won't save more than a fraction of the population." Riven didn't answer immediately. His mind was elsewhere, consumed by a desperate idea that had been taking shape for days. A plan so audacious that it might save humanity or destroy it utterly. Finally, he turned to the council gathered behind him, generals, engineers, and strategists who bore the weight of a dying civilization. "We're not running," Riven said, voice steady. "We're taking the hunt to them. We're stealing the Monarch." A sharp, incredulous laugh broke the tense silence. Admiral Tyron Vow stood tall, his voice a gravelly echo in the room. "The Monarch? The Zanari Supercarrier left adrift in the void for 70 years? You're suggesting we board an alien warship no one alive has ever piloted? That's madness, Riven." Riven activated his holographic projector and a massive dark silhouette appeared above the council's table. The Monarch was colossal, over 4 kilometers in length, shaped like an angular spearhead, with hull plating that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Soria's eyes widened at the sight. "It's bigger than anything we've ever built," she whispered. "Exactly," Riven said. "And it's abandoned. We've scanned it extensively. It's fully intact. The Zanari left it for reasons we don't understand. This is our chance." Dr. Kaleem Tor, the ship's technology officer, furrowed his brow. "Riven, no human has ever boarded a Zanari vessel successfully. Their ships respond to thought patterns, not physical controls. If we fail, then humanity dies," Riven interrupted. His gaze swept the room. "We have 12 days. 12 days to reach the Monarch, learn its systems, and turn it against the Zanari." 3 days later, the stealth frigate Shadow Spike slipped away from Artemis V during a narrow gap in the Zanari patrols. Aboard, Riven ran his hands over the console while Soria calibrated their stealth vector. The crew consisted of a dozen specialists, engineers, combat veterans, and scientists. Among them were Dr. Kaleem Tor, a genius in alien technology, Mara Jin, the security chief with nerves of steel, and Lenzo Kyle, the ship's weapons expert. As they approached the Monarch, a strange emptiness consumed the void around them. The stars seemed swallowed by the colossal vessel floating silently ahead. It was immense, its black hull reflecting nothing, giving the impression of a void within the void. "It's beautiful," Soria whispered. "And terrifying." The docking procedure was tense. Shadow Spike latched onto an airlock near the ship's central sector. Mara led the first boarding team, weapons ready, scanning every shadow. Riven followed with Soria and Dr. Tor. The interior was unlike anything they had imagined. Corridors were wide and silent, walls made of a material that seemed neither metal nor organic, and symbols etched into surfaces pulsed faintly in the dark. The air was breathable, temperature stable, almost as if the ship were waiting for them. Hours passed as they explored the alien vessel. They encountered chambers designed for thousands, all eerily empty. No bodies, no signs of battle. It was as if the Zanari crew had vanished into thin air. Finally, they reached the command hub, a circular room dominated by a central platform. Consoles glimmered faintly as Dr. Tor approached, his hand hovering over a smooth black surface. "These might respond to touch," he murmured. When he placed his palm on the panel, a soft blue light spread across the room. Lines on the walls and floor began glowing, and a holographic display sprang to life, showing a 3-dimensional layout of the Monarch systems. "We woke it up," Dr. Tor said in awe. Soria stepped forward, studying the display. "It's like the ship is trying to teach us how to use it." She made a gesture, and the hologram zoomed in on the propulsion matrix. "I think I can navigate this." Over the next few hours, the crew learned the basics. The Monarch was more than a supercarrier. It could manipulate space itself, move faster than light, and wield weapons that erased matter from reality, rather than simply destroying it. Lenzo ran simulations of the armaments and shivered. With this we could have ruled galaxies, he muttered. Yet it stands empty, abandoned. Riven's comms buzzed. Zanari scouts were closing in on their location. We need to move now, he said. Soria adjusted the navigational arrays, preparing for a jump that no human vessel had ever attempted. The Monarch pulsed around them as it activated, a dormant titan waking after decades of silence. Riven turned to his team. Humanity has always survived against impossible odds. Today we either adapt or we perish. The stars outside stretched and blurred as the Monarch surged forward, carrying humanity's last hope into the heart of enemy territory. A chill ran down their spines as the ship seemed to breathe, alive in a way they could barely comprehend. In the silent hum of the awakened Titan, they felt the weight of centuries of alien knowledge and the enormity of the gamble they had just taken. They were no longer just humans. They were the inheritors of a power long abandoned, and the fate of humanity rested on their courage, skill, and the choices they would make in the hours to come. The Monarch hummed like a slumbering giant as it glided through the void. The crew's footsteps echoed in the vast corridors, swallowed almost instantly by the alien architecture. Captain Riven Kayla and Lieutenant Soria Len worked side by side, studying the holographic displays while Dr. Kaleem Tor adjusted alien interfaces that seemed to bend the rules of physics. Every corner of the ship pulsed with faint energy, responding to their presence as if it recognized humanity. I still don't understand how it chooses to respond to us, Kaleem murmured. The Zanari ships are completely neural. They're alive in a way, but it feels almost sentient. Riven didn't answer immediately. His eyes were fixed on the tactical readouts, showing the Zanari patrols converging along their projected path. Sentient or not, it's our only chance, he said finally. We need to understand enough to use it before they find us. Soria leaned over the navigation console. Captain, the Zanari have started deploying intercept drones ahead. They're fast, and if we're detected now, there's no turning back. We can't outrun them with conventional stealth. Riven nodded. Then we fight differently. He turned to Lenzo Kale. We need to arm the ship. Figure out its weapon systems. Lenzo's eyes widened as he studied the alien interface, his fingers dancing across touch-sensitive surfaces that seemed to anticipate his movements. It's not just weapons, he said, voice tense. They don't fire like anything we know. They collapse reality at the target. Entire ships, entire structures vanish as if they never existed. Mara Jin, moving silently behind him, frowned. If we misfire, we could erase an entire system. Or worse, damage the Monarch itself. We don't have that luxury, Riven said grimly. The Zanari are closing fast. We either learn fast or humanity dies. They began the process of powering up the weapon systems. The air in the command hub seemed to thrum with the ship's energy, a resonance that vibrated faintly through their bones. Holographic panels lit up, displaying complex arrays of energy flows, targeting vectors and subspace distortions. Soria's fingers traced the lines, interpreting patterns instinctively. It's like it's teaching me, she whispered, awe and fear blending in her voice. Hours passed in a tense, electrifying rhythm. The Zanari patrols drew closer, their ships gleaming faintly in the distant void. Suddenly a pulse ran through the Monarch like a warning, and every panel flickered in synchronized waves. Dr. Kaleem Tor's eyes widened. Energy spike in the core. That's unexpected. The ship is reacting. Riven grabbed the console. To what? Before Kaleem could respond, the hull shuddered violently. Alarms blared and the crew stumbled. A low hum grew into a roar, echoing through the corridors like the heartbeat of the Monarch itself. Holograms rippled across the bridge, showing something moving along the outer hull. Strange shapes that defied geometry, shifting between dimensions. Dimensional anomalies. Kaleem muttered, pale. These aren't just patrols. Something is. Following us? Mara's voice was tight, her hand gripping her weapon. What could track a ship that can bend space? I don't know, Riven said, but we're about to find out. The anomalies grew closer. Outside the viewports, the shapes stretched and folded reality itself, forming patterns of light and shadow that made the mind reel. Soria's hands flew across the navigation array, trying to adjust the course. I think we can slip past them maybe, she said, voice trembling. But it's risky. If I miscalculate, we might collapse our own space-time bubble. Lenzo looked at her with urgency. We have no choice. Either we push forward or humanity is gone. Riven turned to his team, each face a mix of fear, determination, and exhaustion. Then we push forward. Every second we wait, millions die. The Monarch surged ahead, faster than any human vessel had ever moved, leaving reality itself bending around its hull. The dimensional anomalies twisted and lunged, reaching for them. But the ship's ancient systems reacted instinctively, stabilizing the path through subspace. The crew watched in awe and terror as space itself seemed to fold and stretch, light streaking past like rivers of fire. Dr. Kaleem Tor's voice broke the silence. "I'm picking up residual Zanari signals. They're communicating with something else, something enormous, and it's coordinating with the anomalies." "The Void Eaters," Mara said under her breath, remembering the faint warnings and alien logs they had found earlier. "Whatever destroyed the Zanari long ago, it's back." Panic threatened to take hold, but Riven's steady voice cut through. "Control yourselves. The Monarch is ours. We learn, we fight, and we survive." As they approached the outskirts of Zanari-controlled space, the anomalies began attacking in full force. Rifts opened along the edges of space, tendrils of distorted reality curling toward the Monarch. The ship's weapons responded, collapsing them before they could reach the hull. Explosions in subspace tore the void apart, creating patterns of impossibility that none of the human crew could have imagined. Lenzo's hands flew over the controls, each strike precise, each collapse of matter timed perfectly. Hours stretched like days. The crew was exhausted yet exhilarated. Soria realized something almost impossible. The Monarch wasn't just a ship. It was alive, and it had chosen them. It was teaching them how to fight, how to survive, and how to harness its power. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the anomalies retreated, leaving a shattered void behind. The Monarch floated silently once more, its hum vibrating through the bones of every crew member. Riven looked around the bridge, the tension in his shoulders slowly easing. "We survived," he said. "For now." Mara lowered her weapon. "For now," she echoed. Kaleem looked at the monitors, his fingers trembling. "Captain, if the Zanari know we're alive, if they see what we're capable of, they won't stop until we're destroyed." Riven's gaze was unwavering. "Then we give them a fight they'll never forget. Humanity has survived against impossible odds before, and will do it again." Soria leaned back in her chair, exhausted but alive. I think it's learning from us too." "We're learning from it," Riven said. "And together, maybe, just maybe, we can turn the tide." The Monarch drifted forward through the void, a dark titan carrying the last spark of humanity. Yet even as hope surged, the crew could feel it. The lingering presence of something ancient, something that had survived eons and now stirred once more. They had faced the void and the Zanari, but the true test was only beginning, and whatever came next would push every human on that ship to the edge of courage, ingenuity, and sacrifice. The void awaited. The aftermath of the anomaly attack left the Monarch eerily quiet. Corridors glimmered with residual energy, like veins of light tracing through the ship's living body. The crew moved cautiously, aware that the Void Eaters weren't gone. They had only withdrawn, regrouping in the darkness between stars. Captain Riven Kayla stood at the observation deck, staring into the swirling expanse of subspace that surrounded them. Each ripple and shimmer reminded him how fragile they were, yet how extraordinary the Monarch was. Beside him, Soria Len adjusted the holographic navigation interface, trying to chart a path that would keep them one step ahead of the Zanari, while minimizing exposure to the anomalies. "They're learning from us too," she said quietly, almost to herself. "The Monarch. It adapts based on what we do." Riven's eyes didn't leave the void. "Then we need to learn faster. We're not just fighting for survival. We're teaching each other." Dr. Kaleem Tor entered, carrying a small device pulsating with alien energy. "Captain, I've isolated fragments of the Zanari communication signals," he said. "They're coordinating with the Void Eaters. Whatever they've summoned, it's intelligent, strategic. It anticipates our moves almost before we make them." Mara Jin stepped forward, weapon in hand but face pale. "So we're being hunted by something that thinks faster than we do, that can bend reality itself, and the Zanari are—" "What, it's pets?" "Not pets," Kaleem corrected. "Allies or pawns. Whatever they are, the Zanari fear it as much as we should." Riven rubbed his jaw. "Fear doesn't help. Knowledge does. We need to understand the enemy, the ship, and ourselves. The Monarch isn't just a tool, it's a teacher. And maybe our only hope." The next days blurred into a rhythm of learning, fighting, and surviving. The crew discovered new ways to communicate with the Monarch using intuition, emotion, even rhythm. A pulse of thought here, a gesture there, it responded. Slowly a bond grew, subtle but undeniable. One night, in the observation deck, Soria and Riven sat in silence, watching a distant star cluster distort as if a storm of subspace energy raged around it. "Do you ever wonder," Soria asked, "if we're changing it as much as it's changing us?" Riven considered this. Every step we take alters its course. Maybe that's the point. Maybe survival isn't just about mastering it. It's about becoming something new together. Before Soria could respond, an alarm shattered the calm. Holographic displays flared red, multiple rifts forming along their projected path. The Void Eaters had returned faster and more coordinated than before. "They've learned our speed, our trajectory," Lenzo Kale said, panic rising in his voice. "They're predicting us. We have minutes, maybe seconds." Riven's hands flew across the controls. "Prepare for a direct engagement. All systems, full power. Let's see how well we've learned." As the Monarch accelerated into the rift storm, reality warped around them. Subspace pulses collided, creating cascades of light and shadow that made the crew feel weightless and disoriented. The Void Eaters lunged, tendrils of impossible geometry reaching for the hull. The ship's weapon systems responded with preternatural precision, collapsing the anomalies before they could touch the hull. Amid the chaos, Soria realized something extraordinary. The Monarch wasn't just reacting, it was predicting, adapting, almost anticipating the crew's intent. She hesitated for a moment, then synchronized her thoughts with the ship, pushing forward with intuition and trust. A pulse of energy shot from the Monarch's core, bending the rifts into intricate knots of light and shadow. The Void Eaters recoiled, their forms writhing in what seemed like frustration. For the first time, the crew sensed dominance, not through brute force but through harmony with the alien ship. "We're doing it," Mara shouted over the roar. "We're winning?" "Not winning," Riven corrected, eyes sharp. "Surviving and learning. Remember, every victory here is temporary, but every lesson counts." After what felt like hours, the anomalies finally dissipated, leaving the Monarch floating silently in the void once more. The crew collapsed, exhausted but alive, hearts pounding with adrenaline and awe. Dr. Kaleem Tor studied the displays, noting the patterns left behind by the Void Eaters. "They're intelligent, yes," he said slowly, "but they have a rhythm, a logic. If we can decode it, we might turn the tide completely." Lenzo nodded, wiping sweat from his brow. "Then we're not just surviving. We're preparing to fight on their terms and maybe even beat them." Riven turned to his team, seeing determination in every face. "This is more than survival. We are humanity's first line, its hope, its last spark in the darkness. And the Monarch, it is our partner. Together we can do what no human or alien has done before." Soria placed a hand on the console, feeling the faint hum beneath her fingertips. I feel it. The ship understands us now. It's teaching us, yes, but also trusting us. We're not just passengers, we're part of it." "Then we have to be worthy of that trust," Riven said, a fierce resolve in his eyes. "Because whatever comes next, it will test every part of us. Courage, ingenuity, sacrifice, nothing less will suffice." The Monarch pulsed softly as if acknowledging their words. The void lay before them, vast and unknowable, but for the first time the crew did not feel alone. They had a purpose, a bond, and a chance. And somewhere in the distant darkness, the Void Eaters stirred again, aware now of a force that would not simply flee. The war for survival had only begun. The Monarch surged forward, gliding through the fractured space where the Void Eaters awaited. Their forms shimmered like broken mirrors, tendrils stretching impossibly far, twisting reality around them. The crew gripped consoles, hearts hammering, every fiber of their being alert. "All stations brace for impact," Captain Riven Kayla commanded, voice calm but resolute. "This is what we've trained for. This is why we exist." Soria Len's fingers danced over the navigation interface, harmonizing her thoughts with the ship. The Monarch seemed alive, responding to her intent before she even completed a command. It was more than technology. It was a partner, a teacher, a living extension of humanity's will. The Void Eaters lunged, folding space as they attacked, but the Monarch anticipated every move. Weapons that bent space-time flared to life, creating ripples that disintegrated the void tendrils before they could touch the hull. Explosions of impossible geometry lit the darkness, revealing fleeting glimpses of the monstrous forms, creatures that defied comprehension. "They're intelligent," Dr. Kaleem Tor shouted over the comms. "They're learning from our tactics. Adjust frequency patterns, shift energy flow." Riven nodded. "Do it now." The crew worked in perfect unison. Mara Jin directed the defensive shields, folding them through multi-dimensional angles. Lenzo Kale coordinated the energy pulses that destabilized the void rifts. Soria guided the Monarch through subspace channels no human had ever navigated. The ship responded instantly, as if it understood not just their commands, but their fears, their hopes, their determination. Amid the chaos, Riven noticed something. A pattern within the Void Eater's movements. It was subtle, a rhythm almost musical. He called out to Soria, and she began to modulate the Monarch's energy emissions in sync with the pattern. Slowly, the void tendrils faltered, recoiling from the pulses. The crew realized that this was not just a battle of force, but of understanding, of connection. "They react to us," Soria whispered, awe in her voice. "They feel us." "Good," Riven replied. "Then let's show them what humanity can do." Working together, the crew synchronized the Monarch's core pulses with the Void Eater's rhythm. A wave of energy surged outward, folding reality in a way that unraveled the attacking forms without harming the natural fabric of space. Tendrils vanished, subspace distortions healed, and for the first time the Void Eaters hesitated. "This is it," Mara said, eyes wide. "We can end this. Or at least contain it." Riven's jaw tightened. "We survive today, we learn today, we fight for tomorrow. Remember that." With a final coordinated pulse, the Monarch collapsed the remaining void tendrils into a stable pocket dimension, sealing the rift they had emerged from. Silence fell, deep and profound. The stars returned to their normal shimmer, the Void Eaters vanishing into the shadows from which they came. The crew sat in stunned silence. Exhaustion pressed on them, but it was mingled with awe and relief. Dr. Kaleem Tor broke the quiet, voice trembling slightly. We did it. Humanity, we actually did it." Soria leaned back, letting herself breathe. "We didn't just survive. We adapted, we became part of something greater." Riven surveyed his crew. Each face reflected the same mix of exhaustion and pride. "Humanity has always faced impossible odds," he said quietly, "and yet we endure. Today, we did more than endure. Today, we proved that our will, our courage, and our unity can overcome even the most incomprehensible threat." The Monarch hummed softly, its core pulsing in gentle waves. It was as if it too recognized the bond that had formed. It was no longer a mysterious ancient machine. It was a partner, a teacher, and now a guardian of humanity. Mara touched the console, almost reverently. "We can rebuild. We can protect our people. We have hope." Lenzo nodded. "And knowledge. The Monarch will teach us. We can use this to prepare for the future, to prevent threats like this from ever reaching our worlds again." Riven stepped forward, gaze sweeping across the bridge. "Remember this feeling, everyone. The fear, the adrenaline, the unity. This is who we are. When humanity faces extinction, when everything seems lost, we adapt. We fight, we survive. And sometimes we find allies where we least expect them." Soria smiled faintly. "We're not just humans anymore. We're something more. Something stronger. Something that can reach across the stars and bend reality itself." With courage and heart, the Monarch pulsed brighter, almost like a heartbeat, and for the first time the crew felt a true connection, not just to the ship, but to the universe itself. The Void Eaters had been a test, a trial, and humanity had passed. Not through brute force, but through understanding, courage, and unity. As the stars stretched before them, endless and radiant, Riven knew that this was just the beginning. Humanity would grow, explore, and thrive, carrying with them the lessons learned aboard the Monarch. The galaxy was vast, filled with dangers and wonders beyond imagining, but for the first time, humans were not just small, fragile creatures. They were masters of their destiny, guided by courage, knowledge, and the bond forged with an ancient, living ship. And somewhere deep in the silence of space, the Void Eaters stirred again. But now they would remember humanity was no longer prey. Humanity had become a force to be reckoned with. The Monarch accelerated toward the next frontier, carrying humanity's hope, its knowledge, and the indomitable spirit of a species that refused to vanish. The stars awaited endless and bright, and humanity would meet them with courage, unity, and the lessons learned from the supercarrier that changed their fate forever. And for the first time in decades, the universe felt a little less empty.